In 1969, a beloved young nun vanished from the streets of Baltimore. Just days later, another young woman was found dead, and whispers began linking both tragedies to a dark secret inside of a Catholic girls' school. At the center, Sister Cathy Cesnik, Joyce Malecki, and a priest accused of unthinkable abuse. This is the story that the church never wanted told, and the mystery that refuses to die. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of A Brush with Death. I am your host, I am your host, Miss Casey. I got these new rings. They're fabulous, but they hurt a little bit. I am your host, Miss Casey Hanalei, and in this series, I sit down, I tell you a true crime story, and I create an art project at the same time, and it usually has something to do with the case. So if you love true crime, or, not love true crime, but if you love listening to true crime and you love art, please, please, please hit that subscribe button. That way you will never miss one of my terrible, yet hopefully inspirational cases at the end. Now, who are we talking about today? We are talking about the subject of the very popular Netflix series, The Keepers, that came out a few years ago. This is the story of Sister Cathy Cesnik. So I wanted to revisit this case. I watched The Keepers when it first came out, and I was like blown away by this intense mystery and just all of the twisties and turnies, and there's just so much going on with this case. I tried to keep it to about 20 to 30 minutes, so hopefully it's not too long for you guys, but I just wanted to kind of do a little recap and just, do Sister Cathy some justice. So without further ado, let's get into this case, guys. On November 7th, 1969, 26-year-old Sister Cathy Cesnik, English drama teacher at Archbishop Keough High School in Baltimore, leaves her apartment to run errands and never returns. Her car is later found illegally parked near the apartment, and the case opens a missing persons report. So, who was Cathy, or Sister Catherine Cesnik? She was born November 17th, 1942 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She joined the School Sisters of Notre Dame and took her vows in 1967. By 1969, she taught history and drama at the Archbishop Keough High School in Baltimore. She was loved by her students for her warmth, her creativity, and her willingness to listen. And my makeup look today is in honor of her and her creativity. So, just FYI. So, within a week, so November 13th to 14th, Joyce Malecki, she was only 20 years old, was abducted and murdered. Her body is found at Fort Meade. Because of timing and the geography, her case is later examined for links to Cathy Cesnik's case. So, who was Joyce Malecki? She was born in 1949 and grew up in Baltimore County. She was close in age to Cesnik's students, and she was known as being very friendly and outgoing. So, Cathy is missing for a little bit here, and then by 1970, January 3rd, 1970, unfortunately, a hunter finds Cathy's body off of Monumental Road in Baltimore County. Her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, and no arrest follows. So the case quickly goes cold and nothing is found. And so does Joyce's case as well. That case also goes cold and is never solved. So in the early 1990s, former Keough students, notably Jean Weiner, or Jane Doe, and Teresa Lancaster, report sexual abuse by school chaplain Joseph Maskell. And others, by the way, but mostly Mr. Maskell, saying that Sister Cathy knew about the sexual abuse and was trying to help her students. Civil litigation raises the possibility that her murder was meant to silence her about the alleged abuse. The suits are ultimately dismissed on limitations of the, of the timing, basically. So the limitation of timing to file a report and make an arrest had already gone out, which is a crime in itself. I think for sexual cases and just assault cases in general, the limitation should be endless, just like murder is, right? But that's just my opinion. So who is this Father Joseph Maskell? Well, he was born in 1939. He was ordained Catholic priest in 1965 in the Archdiocese of Baltimore. He served as chaplain and counselor at Archbishop Keough High School from 1967 to 1975. He was accused by numerous former students of sexual abuse, psychological manipulation, and intimidation. There is a lot more detail as far as the reports of abuse and all that stuff in The Keepers. I would definitely recommend watching that because it unfolds a lot more than I am telling you a very, very minuscule piece of what the story actually has. So my third grade teacher used to say, I have games from here to here, and you've only made it to here. And I'm like, where are the fun games? Are they over here on the other side? Anyways, so the story is this big, and I'm literally only telling you like this much of it. So I would definitely recommend The Keepers, and there's a lot of other documentaries actually out about it. So Joseph Maskell does deny all allegations. Big surprise. He leaves the U.S. in the 1990s for Ireland after all the lawsuits surfaced. That doesn't make you look guilty at all, sir. And he returns to the U.S. and dies in 2001. Now, I never wish any harm to come upon anyone, and I would definitely not resort to violence. But those who have practiced sexual abuse, especially towards children, there is a very special place for you down there. So, he's paying the price now. I'm sure of it. So, 2011 through the 2016, so in the last 10-ish years, the Archdiocese of Baltimore pays settlements to more than a dozen people alleging abuse from Maskell. Again, if they're paying people off, that tells me that he's guilty. But unfortunately, he died in 2001, so they were just paying people off at this point. And I think the Catholic Church, I can neither confirm or deny this, but they have a lot of money too, so they're able to pay people off. Public filings and news reports note many payouts in November of 2016, just before the series The Keepers was released. In May 19th, 2017, Netflix releases The Keepers, which had 7 episodes centering around Cesnik's murder, the clergy abuse allegations at Keough, and the potential cover-up. Survivors and 2 former students, Gemma Hoskins and Abby Schwab, led a grassroots reinvestigation. So thankfully, this kind of spurred up some new interest in the case and this very huge, vast injustice that happened to these students and to Cathy and to Joyce. I'm I'm sure of it. May 2017, in response to interest generated by the series, media coverage surged for this case. The Archdiocese posted a lengthy FAQ and statements about Maskell and its handling of the reports, which I should have looked at this FAQ, but I really didn't want to. Just a bunch of bullcrap, guys. Law enforcement exhumes Maskell's body to compare his DNA with evidence to Cesnik's case. And this is, again, in May of 2017. But no match is reported, which does not rule him out entirely, just FYI. So in that same month, CBS's 48 Hours also features the case amid the renewed attention, packaged coverage, and segments around the series' debut. So thankfully, a lot of new interest in the case is happening, and kind of why I'm doing it now is because I've always been interested in this case, and it's always kind of been in the back of my mind ever since I watched it. I remember watching it at my parents' house. I was home, this is before I had kids and stuff, and I was home. We were home for like a month, and I remember it just come out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to watch this. And I remember crying. It was so moving. So I'm glad that renewed interest has surged. 2018 to 2022, ongoing public tips and independent sleuthing continue. Survivors press for more church transparency and record releases. In December 14th, 2023, with family consent, the FBI exhumes Joyce's body, seeking new DNA in her unsolved 1969 murder. And they examined her alongside Cesnik in the Keepers. The reinterment occurs the same day. Details are withheld due to the active investigation. So we don't know a lot about what the findings are from Joyce's exhumation. I'm really interested to know like what the results were, because if the case is still being reviewed, that means they probably found something. I wonder what it is. So I'm really hoping that this case can be solved. So in July of 2025, so just a month ago, Netflix publishes a refresher on the Keepers. As the case re-enters, the core facts remain unchanged. Cesnik's, her last name is hard to say, I'm sorry. My teeth and my lips get in the way. Cesnik's murder is still unsolved. An explosive survivor testimony is included in this new series. It's amplified, detailed accounts from former Keough students who allege decades-old abuse by Maskell and a lot of other people from that school. And they connect the abuse to Sister Cathy's efforts to protect them. These stories move the case from a local cold case into a broader reckoning with clergy abuse. There's been a ton of public pressure on the church in, I'd say, the last 15 to 20 years with all of the abuse allegations coming out worldwide, right? But especially with this case. After the Keepers trailer what just happened there, was released, the Archdiocese of Baltimore issued the FAQ, like I said, and pointed out prior reporting to the police and reiterated the policies that they have to protect those within the church. While critics and advocacy groups pushed for fuller file disclosures, petitions demanding Maskell's records garnered tens of thousands of signatures, and they are still active today. So if you would like to sign those to get his records released, I will put a link down in the description so that you can do so. So the law enforcement, the attention coincided with the DNA exhumation of Maskell, but no report was found. No match report was found. And new forensic push for Malecki's case with the exhumation in 2023. The media credited the Keepers with the surge of tips to police, thankfully so, and the civil legislative ripple effects were that the series fed into a wider Maryland clergy abuse reckoning, including settlements publicized in late 2016 and later in other states sweeping attorney general reports on abuse, and changes to the civil law that broaden survivors' ability to sue. So thankfully, they are taking a relook at the time limitations to when you can report. And I think this all kind of coincides with the Me Too movement as well. So it's just really interesting to see the timeline of all of this, right? No one seemed to care in 1969 up until 10 years ago, but at least now we're getting somewhere and something, right? People are really trying to get justice for Sister Cathy and Joyce. So 48 Hours also did a tie-in. So CBS's long-running program, 48 Hours, paralleled the Netflix buzz with segments covering the missing nun mystery, helping drive national awareness beyond Netflix's audiences. So this became an international sensation and really focused on the abuse of the church. So that was a very, very tiny little bite of this case. I didn't want to get too deep into the abuse and stuff. I just couldn't stomach it this time around. I'm sorry, guys. But not much is known about, how Cathy died and, just blunt force trauma and all that stuff. So there wasn't a trial in this case. There wasn't any of that. So that's why it's so short. So I'm sorry. But if you are interested, I would definitely take a look at The Keepers. It is such a good documentary and it's so well done. And just be prepared with box tissues if you do watch it. So hopefully in the next coming months and years, we can hopefully find out what actually happened to these women. I think that since I feel like no news is good news in this case. I feel like they probably found something with Joyce's case. So let's just keep praying for an answer and sign that petition if you can for his files to be released, because I think that'll help a lot as well, just for public edification, right? So, like always, I like to end on a quote, and this one is from Martin Luther King Jr. "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Sister Cathy Cesnik reportedly tried to protect her students from abuse from Father Maskell. She acted morally and courageously, even though it may have put her in danger and ultimately got her killed. This quote highlights the moral courage of her standing up for the vulnerable, even when it could go very, very badly, and in this case, cost her her life. So I hope that you see Cathy Cesnik as an example of what we should do in really, really difficult circumstances. When we know something and we need to protect someone, don't let fear get in the way of doing the right thing. And even if that means the worst case scenario, right? I recently read this book that I really liked. Freddie actually recommended it to me, and it's called Positive Intelligence. And one of the things in the book teaches you, basically, with every horrible thing that happens in your life, try to turn it into 3 positive or potential positives, right? And so I try to look at my life in that way now, where, okay, worst case scenario happens. Good. Good that the worst case scenario happens. Now, what needs to happen can happen, right? I lost my job. Great. Now I can go do something else, something more empowering. My dog died. Great. No, Odie. I would never wish that. But it just kind of reframed your brain into thinking about the positive things in your life, and kind of take like a gratitude check too. Like, okay, like what are some good things that could happen because of this? And what are the good things I already have, right? So I hope that you find that encouraging, and you go on today and you try to live your life in the positive way, right? Instead of focusing on the negative. All right, so with that, let me show you, oh my gosh, the picture or the piece that I did. Are you guys liking the Procreate stuff? So it's just easier for me to, because I don't travel a lot, but I'm very active, and I go to work, and I go to, and like on my break, I get to make these pieces and stuff on my iPad. So it's just a lot easier for me to create it on my iPad instead of actually painting it. But if you guys want me to go back to the actual painting, I could do that, but it's just easier for me to do it on Procreate. But this one turned out so good. I love this one. So this is the one I did in honor of Sister, oops, I drew on it. Oh. Sister Cathy Cesnik. And this is from a blog that I found. This is a picture, like a real picture that I drew of these sisters playing baseball. And I want to give credit where credit's due. The blog is called A Blog of Their Own. So this is some sisters playing baseball. And Sister Cathy was said to be very kind and generous and creative and fun, and I think she would have really loved. She didn't play baseball. I'm sure she loved watching it and cheering others on. So this is for you, Cathy. I hope that you like it. It's really cute. I found a lot of them. I found like nuns playing baseball and basketball and doing jump rope and like all sorts of cute things in the community. That's great. All right, guys. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this very tiny coverage of the Sister Cathy Cesnik case. And if you get a chance, please watch The Keepers. It's very eye-opening and a tearjerker, so be ready. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. It really helps my channel out. And that way you'll never miss one of my terrible, horrible, gross stories, but hopefully get inspired at the end a little bit, So I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Be kind to yourself, be kind to one another, and I love you. I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye. When Jesus washed, He washed my sins away. Sister Act. Is it bad that I think of Sister Act while I'm doing this case? I don't know, guys. Shoot. I'm trying to find if... Yeah, okay. So her case is still unsolved. Okay. Okie dokie.